We are standing right next to the tunnel where all the players go in and where they come out of later. So you can imagine the amount of fans that will congregate here during the course of the match before and after the game. And the sounds they were making, I took note of it. Before the game, they were shouting Ten Hag's Red Army. At the end, they were much more vocal. It seemed to be the energy boost United needed. They were shouting Bruno's name, they were chanting it. Perfect tonic, given what happened last weekend against Manchester City in the derby.
Yeah, but I feel like the fans knew how important today was.
How important was it to get the result?
And he needed that, especially when you've got Liverpool next week. You know, you've got Liverpool coming to Old Trafford in probably in the tournament where you've the only real possibility of getting a trophy. You know, especially what's happened in the derby, the last home game against Fulham, we lost 2-1. So winning today, doesn't really matter about the performance, was so vital going into that game next week for the players and for the fans.
Vital. That's all I can say on it.
It's a booster.
Yeah,
for the entire team.
Danny said, look, you look at the next game. That's one of the biggest rivalries in English football. One of the biggest rivalries, and they will want to go into that game full of confidence, full of energy, full of enthusiasm. You got Marcus Rashford back on the score sheet. You got Bruno Fernandes back on the score sheet. You got Onana keeping a clean sheet. The defenders nice and happy. No injuries. So I don't think. I think everybody that went off was a tactical change. Maybe could have been done a little bit sooner when Everton was starting to pile on the pressure. However, the most important thing is that Manchester United came away from here with 3 points and the manager's happy.
Jermaine, how you know, training this week now they got that win.
They'll be bubbling now.
Know, if the week now leading up to Liverpool is completely different. If they'd have lost today, you know, you're coming on Monday, you're going to it's a really tough week for the players and for the manager to try and get them going. But now they've got that win. Like I said, they'll all be galvanised and looking forward to the game now.
I'll be honest, this is my first time this trip, so for the last couple of weeks at Old Trafford covering a game. You often read about Erik Ten Hag being under pressure, so Jim Ratcliffe has bought into the club, his future's very much in the air. But listening to the fans here, everyone seems to be very much on his side. Is that the impression you get?
To be honest,
Erik Ten Hag?
Everything's much easier when you're winning.
Well,
it
even
really
still, they
is.
were chanting his name after the derby last weekend. They were chanting his name here today, even though the last home game was a loss against Fulham.
That's vitally important from a manager's perspective and the playing staff as well. Knowing that you've got the backing of the fans. Let's be honest, if you haven't got the backing of the fans, your time's pretty much up. It will take a matter of days, weeks if you're lucky. He's got the backing of the fans. I still want to see a little bit more of an improvement in terms of what we're seeing on the pitch, in terms of the style of play, in terms of the aggression, the pressing. I've not seen enough of it just yet. Obviously, there's a lot of key players that are out injured as well, especially in the defensive areas. But I do want to see it just a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'm picky, so I want more. I always want more.
Well, that's
Nothing
what
wrong
makes
with that.
nothing wrong with that. I guess that's what makes the best clubs the best, because they always want more. You never settle, never sit on your laurels. What do you feel about the fan base, particularly given you are a United fan yourself, and the backing they have for Erik Ten Hag?
No, I think they do. I think you look at the statistics. I've seen it this week, and
Highest win percentage.
Yes, in the first 100 games, you know. And listen, it's different when Sir Alex took over, and I get all that. But compared to Mourinho, it's close, and Moyes, etc. But look, as well, I think the fans, they understand the injuries that they've had. You know, listen, clubs get injuries. We all know that, but United's have been pretty bad, and it's been to key players as well. We know how important Martinez is. We know how Luke Shaw is. We know Casemiro's been injured this season, and like I said, up in the top areas, you know, Højlund gets going, starts going 5-6, you know, on the bounce, then gets injured, and then that front three for me were starting to find a bit of consistency and form
and rhythm,
rhythm, and like the relationships that I spoke about before, and it just keeps getting broken up, and I think United can see that. Listen, as long as the players are still running, which is what they are doing for Ten Hag, then they're going to back him because they can see that he must, you know, they respect him and they like him.
If you had to give him a rating, because this is his 101st game in charge, what would it be?
Don't bring that to me.
Well, if we're honest, he's got a trophy. He got that last year. It was their first in, what, five or so years?
101 games, did you say?
Yeah, so today was the 101st.
Today.
If you look at the fact that he got top 4 last year, I mean, they're a little bit off Aston Villa right now, I know, but you never know in the world of football, and there's a long time from now till the end of May. Could still get it. Might get an FA Cup this year. Who knows? How would you rate him?
I tell you now, if you don't know what's going to happen next few months, if he goes out and gets an FA Cup, you know, after what he did last season, getting a trophy, got to the FA Cup final, you know, getting in the top 4 with his team as it was this year with all the problems that he's had to deal with off the field. You know, he's managed that, I think, pretty well as well. You know, getting the boys to come out, you know, after a week, try and get a result. If he can get and go and get a trophy, then again,
one, yeah.
you know, it's got to be a 7 or 8 for me.
So I was going to say about a 6.5, 7, but I'm basing that more so on what I've seen this season than I did last season. Last season, if you asked me that same question, it would be an 8 upwards.
Yeah.
But I've seen a slight drop-off. Obviously, personnel is a vital part of that. Yeah, I would say I'll agree with Danny to an extent. I'll give it.
That's
I'll
if
go
you get the
7s,
FA
yeah.
Cup.
Yeah, the Liverpool game, I think, is massive.
Yeah.
Come through that game, I think they're well on for a major shot at trophy number 2.